Hello and welcome to Getaway Day. This is episode 61. My name is Gautam, his name is Mason, and today we're going to be talking about the Cubs rebuild. Before we get into that, if you enjoy our podcast, subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and YouTube. Let us know your comments through the comments and a review on Apple Podcasts, and then on Twitter or Facebook at Getaway Day Pod. How are you doing today, Mason?
I'm not doing too bad. I'm obviously not in my normal location here, so I'm actually in a hotel. So if the audio quality is not going to be great, not a cool background, it is what it is. So
And you went to a cool pizza spot for dinner, right?
I did. So there is a little pizza shop in Paducah, Kentucky. That is, it's a New York style pizza shop, and I went in there. And the dude has just an entire wall of just Yankee stuff. And so I asked the lady at the cash register. She's like, "Oh yeah, the owner's from New York. He used to work at Yankee Stadium. Huge Yankees fan." So in the middle of Paducah, Kentucky, there is some diehard Yankees fans. So that was cool to see. A lot of Babe Ruth memorabilia, some Thurman Munson stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff.
Nice.
So.
Did you see that the captain, Derek Jeter, joined Twitter finally?
I did see that. I didn't listen to the video, but I think he put a video on there, didn't he?
I didn't see that, but he got like thousands of followers within the first 10 minutes.
See, I don't know if he's going to be as cool of a follow initially as a guy like Joey Votto when he first started. Because no. Joey Votto got social media and was just like a god at social media.
Yeah, he is the best.
I feel like Jeter's just going to be kind of vanilla and boring.
Which is his MO, kind of. That's the way he always was.
This is true.
So. We'll keep an eye on it, though. All right, so we're going to start off our conversation today talking about the Phillies. And the Phillies are having a really tough time. Their plan of going all in on their offense and just kind of saying, we don't care about defense. We don't really care about run prevention in general. Our bullpen's really not that great. We're just going to try to out-hit everybody. And they made some big ticket additions to their roster with Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos. And then they already had JT Realmuto and who am I missing?
Bryce Harper.
Yeah. So these guys are supposed to be studs. Bryce is playing like a stud. The other three guys, not so much. They're playing okay, but they're not near the top in offense in the league at this point.
Yeah. And then they're getting contributions from guys like Bryson Stott and Alec Boehm, but nothing that's like earth-shatteringly amazing. And yeah, this Phillies team was supposed to be one of the best hitting teams in the league. Go ahead and venture a guess as to where they rank as far as team offensive WAR.
I'd say they're probably just outside the top 10.
They're a lot farther down than that.
Really?
Let's just say they're below a team that we're going to be talking about here at length today.
Really? They're below the Cubs?
They're below the Cubs. They're 20th overall.
Wow.
With 5.1 team offensive WAR. I just from looking at it, their strikeout rate is above average. Their team average is, let me resort this real quick.
Above average as in like better or worse?
Worse.
Okay.
Now their team batting average is just outside the top 10 at 244. Their team slugging, which I think is where this team is supposed to succeed, is top 10 at 401, but they're so underwhelming. And I don't really know why. Like, they seem to be hitting the ball from an average standpoint and a slug standpoint, at least compared to other teams. But they have the 8th highest strikeout rate in the majors
Yeah.
as a team. Is that part of the problem?
I mean, I
Like,
think that was kind of to be expected when you have guys like Schwarber and Hoskins. They just inherently strike out a lot. It's just part of their games.
yeah, and they're 20th as far as walk rate.
Yeah,
So,
that's surprising. I would have expected a lot more than that. And then today we
so
got the news that Gene Segura is going to be out for an extended period of time. I guess he broke his finger. So, really competent player for the Phillies. They're going to have to replace him. And I have zero clue who's going to be playing second base now for that team.
so probably Bryson, right?
Yeah, something like that. It'll
Or
be
or
Camargo
they'll
playing
bring Nick
shortstop.
Maton back up or something.
Who's that?
Nick Maton, they might give him another shot like they did last year.
Could be, yeah.
So
Yeah, and I've been watching this Phillies Giants series, and it has been like really like I usually don't like to overstate the psychological aspects, even though I understand that they matter a lot. But when you watch the Phillies, they do not look like they're having that much fun playing baseball. Like they look like they're doing work. And I don't know what's wrong with them right now.
so confirmed, Nick Maton was recalled today. So he was the corresponding move with Gene Segura going on the IL.
Okay.
So it sounds like that might be part of the solution. Granted, it's not really a great solution. It's actually looking like, if you're looking at roster resource, which I don't know how much I trust roster resource as far as what Joe Girardi's actually going to do, but they're actually thinking that Johan Carmago is going to be playing second, and then Nick Maton is actually going to be sliding into short.
Yeah, I could see something like that too.
So,
Okay. Yeah. So we'll move on from the Phillies. We'll see if they can get it together. I hate to do this to you before we leave the Phillies, but you did say that the Phillies would win the division. They were your pick. How are you feeling about that right now?
well, not great, not for just that reason. I'm not feeling great about that because someone else is really freaking good,
Yeah, that's the Mets.
and that's the New York Mets. Like, this is the first time since 2006 that both the Yankees and the Mets were in first place coming into June.
Wow.
Yeah,
City
and
Series? We're getting a little Subway Series, World Series?
the Subway Series, World Series would be awesome.
Yeah, it would.
So, but the Mets are 18 games above 500. They're 35-17. The Yankees are 34-15. Like, the Yankees are the best team in the league right now by record. And I mean, honestly, by run differential, yeah, they're also the best team in the league. Well, the Dodgers technically, but that's just because the Dodgers score more. But I don't know, like, the fact that both of the New York teams are good at the same time is weird to me. The fact that the Mets are good is just weird to me in general. Like, how does Steve Cohen just throwing money out there actually pay off?
Well, all the
They don't
moves
even
they
have
made.
their full rotation.
Yeah, that's the amazing part. They're staying afloat, and they're not just like they're pummeling teams they're playing. They're scoring like big numbers every night. Basically, they're very good.
Yeah, they've scored the most runs in the league
Yeah,
at 271 on the season. And then they've still given up less than 200, which is below the league average so far, I think. But like, there's a couple of like stellar standout teams like the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Astros that have only given up like 150, 160 runs. But pretty much everyone else is about 200 or more. And so this Mets team, without DeGrom, is Scherzer back yet?
nope, he's still out for a
Without
while.
DeGrom, without Scherzer, they're still one of the better pitching teams in the league. Like, I'm actually curious now that I've said that. They are the 10th best pitching team in the league without their two aces. That's according to team pitching.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's probably important. By ERA, they're not quite that high, I don't think. No, actually, they're still 10th. Yeah, so. But I don't know. Yeah, so I don't feel good about the Phillies winning the division anymore. And not just because the Phillies can't score.
Yeah. We all expected the Mets to kind of Mets it up, and but they're not so far, and it doesn't really look like they're going to either.
Are they redefining Mets gonna Met?
Let's see it happen first, I guess.
All right.
There's still plenty of time in the season.
Yes, there is.
One guy that before we get to the hitting streaks, I wanted to talk about last week, but I kind of forgot about him. It's Mookie Betts, who is having an absolutely fantastic season with the Dodgers. He kind of started out a little bit slowly, but in the month of May, he's been absolutely ridiculous. And the stat that I'm keeping an eye on for this season is his runs scored. He's got 50 runs scored in 47 games played. So more than a run per game. If he keeps it up through the season, you got to keep an eye on Jeff Bagwell's modern day record of 152 runs scored in the year 2000 with the Astros. So I feel like runs are a forgotten about statistic, but if you look at run leaderboards every year, those are the best players in the league every year. So
Yeah.
he's always at the top of it because he leads off for the Dodgers with Freddie Freeman and Trey Turner behind him. It's like he's going to score plenty of runs, but let's see if he can do something historic here.
Yeah, and like people do sometimes make the argument that the run stat is not really that telling and that important if
Right.
you have a low number because of guys that are batting cleanup that maybe are driving in runs but not scoring themselves. So yeah, there's going to be guys who are the best in the league that aren't at the top. But if you're consistently on base enough to lead the league in runs, you're probably also pretty darn good, and your RBIs are probably going to be pretty solid too. So it's like if you look at the combination, they're pretty important telling. But
Well,
yeah,
so
like
I think it's better than RBI because RBI, I feel like sometimes you'll get like a random guy in there at the top. Like I think last year with Adam Duvall had like the most RBIs in the league. He's not one of the best players in the league by any means. He just happened to have a lot of RBIs. But with runs,
yeah,
I feel like you cannot find a guy at the top of the list that's actually a bad baseball player or not like one of the best.
that's fair. So actually, I'm going to test your theory here. So I've got the runs leaders pulled up, and
See any bad baseball players?
the first guy that jumps out to me, um, and only for one very specific reason, is Miles Straw at 10th. And that's just because he's not a big average guy. So the fact that he's on base enough to score 34 times and be in the top 10,
Yeah.
that's kind of impressive. Like he's more of a defensive guy to me. But then once you get past him, like still scrolling, Cesar Hernandez at 23. He's probably the first guy that I'm like.
And both those guys make a ton of sense why they're there because they both get on base a lot and they both lead off for their teams and they play every day.
Yeah.
So,
but then I have to go to page 2 until I find another guy that's like doesn't really make sense to me. But yeah. All right. So I think I agree with you now. Runs is important. If you score a lot of runs, you're probably really good.
yeah, pretty simple.
On the flip side, if you're a pitcher and you give up a lot of runs, you probably suck.
You probably do, yeah. All right, so hitting streaks. I feel like there's a lot of hitting streaks actually going on right now, but the two longest ones in the league, um, Trey Turner and Paul Goldschmidt. Trey Turner, hitting machine. He's kind of like the modern day hit king, if you will. Like he has the highest. He has the highest like active batting average. Is that right?
I believe so.
And it's
Yes.
above 300. He's got a 23 game active hitting streak right now. And basically, since he joined the Dodgers, he kind of took it up another level. He's had three different streaks of more than 15 games, hitting streaks, since he joined the Dodgers. And he's only been on the Dodgers for 101 games. Um, so he's kind of doing his thing.
Trey Turner actually is fourth in career batting average, behind Miguel Cabrera, Jose Altuve, and Mike Trout.
Okay.
So, but yeah, no. So Trea is just an insane player, and looking at his 23 game streak here, and they are playing right now. I don't think he did not get a hit in his first at bat. So his streak is still in jeopardy. But in the month of May, which I didn't pull this up to only his streak. This has 6 extra games before that. But in the month of May, Trey's hitting 313 with here we go. 313, 375, 504. He does have about 4 home runs and has had a really solid month. But just the fact that he is on base as much as he is and putting together a 23, potentially 23 plus day hitting streak. Like, what's the longest one you could think of in recent history?
Well, Trey had a 27 one, stretching from last season to the beginning of this year. So,
Okay. So he's nearing his own. Is that even his career long?
I think it might be. I'm not really sure though.
Okay. But yeah, so like really, really good numbers there. Where I find it kind of interesting is the other guy who has a 23 game hitting streak makes Trey Turner's look just ordinary. Paul Goldschmidt is on a 37 game on base streak, 23 game hit streak that stretches, or the on base streak stretches back into April, and he has been on fire. In the month of May, he hit 404 with 10 home runs. And where was the rest of his line? 404, 471, 817. So that's almost a 1.3 OPS. Like, that's just absolutely insane. He's been I think, the best hitter in the league over the last month.
Yeah,
the 254 WRC
gotta
plus.
be, right?
And what was it that you were telling me earlier about was it the WOBA chart?
Yeah, looking at his rolling WOBA throughout this season, the beginning of it, he was like way below his average for the season. And then ever since then, it's just been a straight line up. He's just been playing better and better as the season has gone along.
Yeah. And he doesn't show any signs of cooling off either.
Yeah. And it's like that's one of those things. Like if we've learned anything from Paul Goldschmidt's time with the Cardinals, when he gets hot, he gets just extremely hot and there's no stopping him for months, basically.
Yeah. And he's looking pretty darn terrifying. Because looking back over his or basically since the 10th of May, just on his game logs on Fangraphs, they give WRC plus for every game. The times that he has been under 100 is 4 times. That's it.
Yeah.
I
remember there was that game where he had like the walk-off homer, the walk-off grand slam. That was the one game where it seemed like he was having a bad game. He had 3 strikeouts, and then he comes up and hits the walk-off grand slam and saves his day.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. That was game 1 against Toronto, right? Yeah. So he ended up finishing the game 1 for 5, um, with only that grand slam. Which, if you only hit a grand slam and that's the only thing you do during a game, uh, any guess as to what your daily WRC plus is?
I have zero clue. I've never looked at that stat.
175.
Okay. Yeah. In
So you
this
could do
in this batting
nothing
environment,
then
man,
just
you do anything and you're above average, basically.
yeah, pretty much. Like he went 1 for 5 with or 1 for 4 with a walk and had a 107.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
in this batting environment, you could literally like kick a ball back at the pitcher and get out and probably still have like a 110.
pretty much, yeah. The one thing about
But
Goldschmidt, he is rocking 400 BABIP, and like 18% of his fly balls are going out of the park. So that'll probably not continue. But
oh
obviously,
yeah,
what he's done is
his run is
ridiculous.
not sustainable like for long term.
No,
But he is definitely one of those guys that like when he gets hot, if you're the other team, you just really hope that he just like didn't sleep the night before.
yeah, that's all you can hope for, basically. Okay, so I got one more hitting streak for us that'll lead us perfectly into our main topic, and
All
that
right.
is the hitting streak of Christopher Morel and the on base streak of Christopher Morel. So he's a rookie for the Cubs. He plays all over the field. He is an absolute delight to watch play baseball. I'm literally tuning into Cubs games these days to specifically see Christopher Morel play baseball. He gets
Who
so hyped.
for anyone who doesn't know Christopher Morel, he's the 21st overall prospect in the Cubs organization. So not a top 100 major league guy at all, but a really solid prospect. And yeah, he's been fun so far.
Yeah, it's funny on his Fangraphs page. He's listed at like 6 foot 140. He is not that anymore. They need to update that big time. He's kind of like really filled into his body, very strong. Got a lot of like raw power, a lot of speed. He hit a triple yesterday and he was going crazy. The guy loves to give hugs. He is hugging people left and right in the Cubs dugout after every single thing.
Can I be his friend? I like hugs.
If you see Christopher Morel play, you will want to be his friend.
Well, I mean, I've watched him on TV once, and I want to be his friend. So
Yeah, once is enough. So, but anyways, he's played 15 games in his career now, and he's reached base in all of the games, and he's got an active 11 game hitting streak. So,
so I know last year Wander had the 40, what was it, 40 something game on base streak as a rookie.
yeah,
But what is the record for since your debut starting it? Do we
that's a
know?
that's a great question. I don't know.
I kind of want to remind me to tweet at Sarah Langs because I feel like that's something she would know.
Yeah, I mean, 15 is not bad, right? That's a pretty good way to start your
Oh,
career.
yeah, that's a great way to start your career.
Yeah,
And not just 15 game on base, like 15 game on base with a 283, 387, 491 slash line and 2 home runs and 5 steals. Like that's a really, really good 15 or first 15 games of your career, no matter who you are.
Yep.
Like,
And like he seemed like he was just going to be a guy that kind of got called up because the Cubs were dealing with so many injuries. But at this point, he's leading off every day for them. He's playing center field, second base, shortstop. He can play everywhere, and he plays well defensively too. So it's like I don't think he should be sent back down at this point unless he shows like some serious struggles. But let him play.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said this was going to be a great transition into the whole topic, but you're kind of right because like what else do the Cubs really have going on for him right now as far as like a really positive or well, maybe not high ceiling, but like moderately high ceiling guy in their lineup. Like right now, they've got 13 guys on the injured list. 5 of them are position players slash hitters. David Bodie on the 60 day, Jan Gomes, Jonathan VR, who are both older guys. And then Michael Hermosillo and Seiya Suzuki. So take all those guys out, and who does that really leave you with left that like is a young guy with like that's not just there as a placeholder almost during a rebuild? You got Nico Horner. Some people would say Nick Madrigal. Other people think that he's overrated. Those people are probably right. Um, Ian Happ.
Yeah, so let me back up a little bit. So going into
Right.
this season, 2022, the Cubs like made a ton of moves. They changed their roster a lot. They obviously went out and got Marcus Stroman and Seiya Suzuki, guys that could be with the team longer term. And then they signed a bunch of 1 year deal guys who they could trade if they're bad, or if like everything, and I mean everything, went perfectly perfect, then they could be like a contending team. And here we are. What's the Cubs record? I think they're like 20-29. They're clearly not good. They're clearly not competitive. All those things did not go perfect, not even close. Pretty much everything's gone wrong for the Cubs to this point in the season. Um, there are some good things that happen, but whatever the plan, like the plan to be competitive this year was not realistic after having seen this section of this initial part of the season. And that's not really that surprising, but it is sort of sad that we're here on June 1st and people are already starting to write stories about where Wilson Contreras is going to get traded and who all they're going to trade this trade season.
Well, I mean, when we're in June and you're below the Pirates in the standings, it's
Yeah,
not
it's not
really a good
great. No, not at
because
all.
the Pirates aren't good. It's not like they were just like surprisingly solid this year. They still suck,
Yeah, they're pretty
like a lot.
bad.
They've only scored 166 runs this year. The Dodgers have been the best pitching team in the league and have only given up 154. So the Dodgers have almost given up more runs than Pittsburgh has been able to score.
Yeah.
And
So
then they've also allowed more runs than almost any other team, with the exception of Colorado and Cincinnati and Washington and Kansas City. So all the really bad teams.
yep. And the
Oh,
thing is, like, even where the Cubs are right now, they're not in that bottom tier of like the worst teams. They're not the Reds. They're not
no,
they're not some other teams. Like,
they're not all those teams that I just named. They're not the Rockies. They're not the Reds. They're not the Pirates. They're not Washington. They're not Kansas City. They're not Oakland.
yep.
But they're kind of the next tier,
Yeah. And
which
I
is
do think I think they could be a little bit better than they are, but the injuries have really killed them, especially on the pitching side. Um, Two guys that they brought in this year just to stabilize the rotation in Drew Smiley and Wade Miley. They've not pitched that much because they've been hurt.
yeah. And Stroman's been on the IL this year too, right?
Yeah, Stroman had COVID, and now he's started to turn it around and started to pitch really well. Um, but that's left the bullpen, I mean, the rotation kind of like where it was last year, where it's just not good, not giving them any length, and then the bullpen doing a lot of work to clean
Yeah,
up their
and
mess.
they're trusting some young, unproven arms and these guys are. This is now their second year of getting regular starts, I think. And Justin Steele and Keegan Thompson, and they've been doing pretty solid. Like
Yeah, they're
they,
both can. So with Thompson, he's been pretty much lights out coming out of the bullpen and kind of pitching one time through a lineup. So he goes about 3 innings or so, and he's been really good at that. And I think that's ultimately what his long term role should be. With Steele, he's had some good starts and some bad starts. He's another guy. If they put him in the same role as Keegan Thompson, I think he'd be really successful. As a starter, it's still a little bit unclear whether he's actually going to be able to be a guy that goes 6 innings in a game.
yeah. And then this other guy that they're turning to right now with all the injuries is Matt Swarmer.
Yeah,
Who is he?
yeah. So Matt Swarmer, he was a draft pick in like 2016. Never really a big name prospect. He does not show up on any prospect list or anything, but a guy that's been kind of successful, just throwing a lot of sliders in the minors, and he finally made it to the majors. He made his first start this past weekend. He was pretty good. Gave up like one earned run in 6 innings. I mean, maybe he'll get a shot now with both Miley and Smiley on the IL.
Yeah, and Abbott and Alec Mills on the 60 day since the season started. Basically,
Yep.
are either of them going to be back anytime soon?
Yeah. So Mills is doing rehab right now, so I think he should be back relatively soon.
Okay.
The guy that people are really waiting for, Cubs fans, on the pitching side is Caleb Killian, who's their top pitching prospect right now. He's been dominating AAA. He was the part of the return for Chris Bryant last year. So he's another guy I think is going to get a shot as this season goes along. But
Okay.
with Miley and Smiley on the IL, that really throws a wrench in Jed Hoyer's plan because those were the 1 year guys he had that he thought he'd be able to flip at the trade deadline. And now if they're injured, like he's not going to get anything out of them.
Yeah.
On the hitting side, there's there's a there's definitely some good things happening. So Wilson Contreras, he's been unbelievable. He's having a great season, not just for a catcher, just in general. He's 12th in the entire league in WRC plus. He's got a 156 WRC plus. Um, he's been dominating, and then Ian Happ has also been really good this year. Not hitting for as much power as he has in the past, but striking out less than he has before, and playing way better defense in left field. So I don't know if the Cubs are going to consider trading Hap. He still has another year, or whether he could be like a guy that they try to extend after the season.
Yeah. I don't know. It kind of feels like Hap would be one of those guys that would not be a financial stretch to extend. Like he's a good player, but he's been kind of up and down throughout his 5 years. And so I feel like he's not going to demand like an incredibly high AAV. And with some of these guys that they've got and some of these prospects that they've got, if they're legitimately in a rebuild, I think he'd be the guy that I would keep around.
Yeah, I mean
That
he's basically he's really similar to Seiya in a lot of ways. They're the same age. They're both corner outfielders with power, good plate discipline. Why not build around both those guys? Like they're good
yeah,
players to have around.
yeah, because like Nick and Nico and Nico more than Nick maybe, they're high upside but contact guys. They're not power guys. They're
Right.
good defense. In Nico's case, good defense, high contact. You need some power there. And these other guys that, yeah, you have quite a bit of time left with them. But like P Wiz is 31, Schwindel is 30. Like, there's a reason that they're just now in their second year in the majors at this age. It's like they're solid players, but they're not the guys that are gonna turn a team around.
No.
And so, like, yeah, I would definitely keep Hap around. He's only 28,
Yep.
or not even.
Yeah. So
So
he's still young. Yeah, I've just been so confused in general watching this team because they were built really strangely, and then I feel like I haven't learned that much about any of these players. In the case of like Madrigal, we don't really know because guys barely played at the major league level, and then this year he's been pretty bad, and he's not really doing his thing of hitting for average. He has not played well at all. There's no way around it. But I'm not gonna like give up on him now. Obviously, they gotta give him some more playing time, see what
yeah,
he can do.
I mean, he's kind of a completely different situation, but it's sort of similar to when you're talking about like Glaber, and people are like, Glaber sucks. He needs to, or he doesn't deserve to be in the majors or whatever. It's like, dude's 25. He's still solid. Like, he's got time to turn it around and become every bit of what he was supposed to be. And with Madrigal having only played 107 games in his career. Like, he definitely has time to come around. Like, he's only 25.
Yeah.
Like,
And he's coming off a
and
major injury last year. It's like definitely
yeah.
part of it.
So, yeah. So it's like, cut the guy some slack. It's not like the team is dominant and he's dragging them down right now. Like, cut him some slack. Let's see what he can do. And let's rock and roll. So,
I actually, but getting back to that point about what I have and haven't learned about the Cubs, I feel like the one thing I know now is that Patrick Wisdom is like, he's a major league quality player. He just has this big flaw that he strikes out like almost 40% of the time, but he has
yeah.
insane power.
Yes, he does.
So he's been
Which
up
is,
for exactly one calendar year now, and he's second in the National League in home runs in that span, only behind Bryce Harper. So he's kind
yeah.
of like a
Like,
big power hitter.
there's a reason he was a big prospect for a long time. Like,
Right.
he was a second round pick back in 2012 by the Cardinals, and he was a big prospect in the organization for a while, and he just didn't really cut it with the Cardinals. Just, I think, partially because he was at a position that we really didn't need at the time, and partially because he strikes out a lot.
Yeah.
And so, it with a team that focuses or has focused on defense first for the last considerable amount of
His
time.
defense is good though. It's very good.
That's true. That's very true. So I guess it's probably more to the point that, like, it wasn't a position of need for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And so, and then they went out and got Arenado like immediately following his debut in St. Louis, and then he ended up getting shipped over to Texas. So, like, he's been a really good prospect. So yeah, he's definitely a good player, but damn, does he strike out a lot. 39.7% career strikeout rate.
Yeah. That's
And his walk rate is not equally high to offset it.
right. But you can't argue with 500 slugging percentage, right?
You can't. 306 on base,
It's not
maybe
great.
a little
No.
bit more. You could argue a little bit more about that one.
This is another one of those lines that just makes no sense to me because of 2022 baseball. 235, 306, 500. And that's 23% better than average.
Yeah. Power means everything right now
Yes.
because the ball just keeps dying at the track and it keeps getting caught. So, really, the only way to score runs right now is hit it harder so it goes over the fence, or learn to be like the Pirates and not hit with any power whatsoever and find all the gaps. Although they still can't really score, so maybe that's not a great move. But
So looking
so
kind of big picture at the Cubs, what do you think is the way that they can be a contending team next year? Is that possible at all?
it's going to be tough, and it's going to depend entirely on what they do with Hap and Contreras. Because if they trade even one of them, like, granted, if they don't trade Contreras and he leaves in free agency, that's going to kind of also do the same thing I'm about to explain. But they have to keep both of those guys around if they want to be competitive next year, because the Cubs do not have a catching prospect that is, like, solid and healthy. Like, PJ Higgins has been, I don't want to say a prospect, but he's been a AAA guy and has been up and down a bit the last couple of years. He was injured last year, I think, right?
Yeah, he had a arm injury. He missed a lot of time last year.
Yeah. And then Miguel Amaya was supposed to be the next guy, but then I think he had Tommy John this year
Yep.
or something.
He's missed a
So
lot of
he's out
time.
for the
So he's kind
entire
of
season.
off the radar, yeah.
Yeah. So they really don't have anyone to fill that hole. If they lose Contreras, they either have to go find a really good catcher.
And they don't
Or
exactly grow on trees. They're not just around.
exactly. So if you lose him, you're kind of screwed. And if they get rid of Hap, like, that's the other, like, veteran that is, like, seen success. Like, all the other guys are have seen a little bit of success, but they've only been around for a little bit of time. Hap's been there for 5 years. He kind of knows that you want that leadership. Hayward is not the guy
No,
to keep around
that's
for
the other thing
leadership.
we know for sure, that Hayward is not good at baseball anymore. Like, his time is over. There's zero point in playing him at this point when you've got other guys that we haven't even mentioned today that could potentially be something, or at least like quality major leaguers, in like an Alfonso Rivas, who's a first baseman, outfielder guy, and then Clint Frazier, obviously former top prospect. You got to see if there's anything there.
Yeah, and then if you say screw those guys, I mean your number one prospect is sitting in AAA. Like Brendan Davis is a really good prospect.
Yeah,
Him,
unfortunately,
Christian
he's injured
Hernandez,
right now, but when
he
he comes
is.
back,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, but like he's a top. What is he? He's like a top 20 prospect, isn't he? Or
I
top
think so.
30?
Yeah, something like that.
He's number 16 on the MLB Top 100. Like Brendan Davis is a really, really good prospect, and he's just between Jack Leiter and Alec Thomas, if that tells you anything. So it's time for him to get a shot once he's healthy, I think.
Yep,
So
for sure.
why keep Hayward playing?
Doesn't really
Give
make
him
much
the
sense.
give him the last season in St. Louis Dexter Fowler treatment,
Yeah.
and then trade him to the Angels.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Um,
no, but then kind of to keep going with your question though, like how can they be competitive next year? I don't think there's a competitive next year. I think there's a competitive 2 years from now, or more competitive 2 years from now, and that's based on the fact that all of the good prospects the Cubs have are Double A or lower.
yeah, and that's the sad part about it. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the timeline for the team, because they can obviously trade those prospects. But it's
But
sad when
true,
the people are most excited about Pete Crow Armstrong getting promoted from low A to high A. Like, people care about that way more than what's going on with the Cubs right now.
yeah. Like there's certain prospects that when that happens, like for any team, it's a big deal. Like when Jordan Walker went from double to triple A for the Cardinals, that
That
was a
one at
huge
least
deal.
makes sense though. Like, that
But
guy's
it does.
potentially on the
That's the
precipice of
point.
making the majors. This guy's
Yeah,
literally years away from making the majors,
I mean he's a top 100 prospect, and he's in low A. So like, it's one of those that it's like, ooh, he's closer,
but he's not
but
close.
he's not. He's probably a 2024 guy,
Yeah, no doubt. He's
and
super young. Yeah,
like he's only 20 years old now. Like he's still incredibly young, but and Christian Hernandez is kind of the same way, but he's still a rookie ball. So
yeah.
we'll see when he goes to low A.
But that low A team was just absolutely stacked with like all their top prospects, and the high A team as well. Like guys like Kevin Alcantara, who they got in the Rizzo trade. Owen Casey
Yep.
from the Darvish trade is at South Bend. He's kind of killing it.
James Triantos
Yep.
is at low A, which is who's the low A team?
Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle Beach. All right. Let's see. Jordan Wicks is at South
South
Bend.
Bend. Yep.
DJ Hers at South Bend. Braylon is in Double A.
Yeah, he has not pitched in a while, but hopefully he'll be able to make it to the majors as well. And let me just switch to the pitching side of things. So I don't think we can really say that the Cubs can't develop pitchers anymore because of how successful they've been with bringing up all these guys. Most of them are in the bullpen, but they've been extremely successful with building bullpens like internally. This year in Scott Efros, obviously Rowan Wick's been there for a little
Why are
bit.
you saying F. Ross? That's just mean. I'm sure he's a wonderful person.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. And then we saw Swarmer's debut, Keegan Thompson and Justin Steele making good strides. Brandon Hughes, another guy that made his debut this year. So that's been the cool part about watching the Cubs this year. They've had a ton of prospects making their debuts, and maybe they'll be good. Who knows?
And also Michael Gibbons.
Yes. they built a great bullpen, man. They're gonna trade all those 1-year guys: David Robertson, Michael Givens, Chris Martin.
Mark Leiter Jr.,
Oh, he's worth um, 0
pair of
approximately.
socks.
Yeah, a pair of
He's worth a
socks.
pair of socks.
Yeah.
But not stance socks. Those are too expensive.
Nope.
Yeah. We're
Too
talking like
expensive for the Ricketts, and that's
we're talking dollar store socks.
yes, Dollar
Yeah,
Tree.
exactly. I love the Dollar Tree.
The Cubs have to spend though. That's the key. They did not spend enough this offseason. They're way below where they should be for being a big market team. There's no excuse for this team not to be spending like 200 million on payroll every year.
Yeah, I mean their estimated payroll for this year, so right now, is 144 mil.
It should be near
Like
200 every year. They can go get a
where
star player this
that
offseason.
144 mil, where does that lie in the scheme of the division? So it's just above the Brewers at 137. So the Brewers don't spend a lot of money; they never really have, and also they have a ton of young guys. The Cardinals are at 162, which is the lowest they've, which is lower than last year. I won't even bother looking at the. Well, maybe I shouldn't look at the Reds. So the Reds are at 111. The Reds are at 111. Why are the Cubs only at 144?
Yeah, it's unacceptable.
And and then the Pirates, surprisingly more than last year, but I think it's all based on the facts that they gave Cabron a contract to buy out Arb. So they're at 58 mil. So, like, yeah, the Cubs need to start spending some money. And they went out and they spent on Stroman, and they've got Stroman for what, 5 years?
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, so they didn't really dole out these long-term deals other than the one for Seiya for 5 years. And that's kind of the problem because they're going to have to either go super high AAV to get guys on shorter term deals, or they have to bite the bullet and give out the big long term contract.
Yeah.
So,
So we'll see, but I don't know. It's weird because like the Cubs should be good. They have the money to be competitive at least. They have the prospects to remain competitive in the future, but they're just kind of floating here with the 18th best team or best hitting team and the I think let's see where are they at pitching wise, the 24th best, or no, sorry, I have this sorted by ERA. Yeah, the 24th best ERA and the 21st best pitching WAR by a team. So their pitching sucks, even though like there's some good stuff there. They still overall are underwhelming. Hitting, they're underwhelming. But why? Like I feel like they could be good if the Ricketts would just, you know, say here's a little bit more cash,
here's a Trey Turner. That'd look nice for the Cubs.
right?
Yeah.
So I kind of think you guys need a Wilmer Flores
Yeah, even that would be an upgrade over some of these guys.
and an Eric Hosmer.
Yes, we need an Eric
Those are
Hosmer.
your two guys.
I agree.
I will allow you to have those two.
The Wilson Contreras situation, I mean, it kind of looks like it's heading towards the trade situation.
Hear me out. I have an idea. How's Travis d'Arnaud doing right now?
Fine.
Okay. Do you think the Braves would be wanting to upgrade to Wilson Contreras?
No, because his brother is better than him.
Well, they should trade his brother to the Cubs. I'm trying
Has there
to
ever
help
been
you.
a brother for brother trade? That would be something.
I have no idea.
Yeah. I'm kind of rooting for that to happen now.
Did Dizzy and Daffy Dean get traded for each other?
His name was Daffy?
Yes. Well, his nickname is Daffy.
Oh.
Wait a minute. There was a third?
There's a third Dean.
You're kidding me. There was not a Ducky Dean. If there was a Ducky Dean, I am going to. Okay. J. Hannah Dean is Dizzy. Where? Give me the other names. Control F. Daffy. Daffy Dean's brother was the more humble one. So what is this ducky that is in the? Oh, okay. Joe Medwick's nickname was Ducky, so it's not another Dean. It was just Dizzy and Daffy were the brothers, and then Ducky is Joe Medwick.
Okay.
I thought there was a third brother that just like got lost to history. All right, sorry for that tangent.
No problem. um, yeah, I guess it's a bit like, just to summarize, it's just like a bit unclear what the Cubs are kind of doing here. And I mean, I think a lot will be revealed at the trade deadline this year, and kind of what we'll have to see what they do in the offseason. I just, it's just hard for me to see them being like a good team next year, unfortunately.
Yeah. So we actually will get kind of um, an interesting week here because they do have 5 straight games with the Cardinals, and so if some of these young guys can show up against St. Louis, like division games are always really competitive, no matter how bad either team is, and it might be interesting to see if some of these young guys can show up and perform in a big division matchup like this. They're going to be going against Libertor, who's young and they've seen in the PCL. Um, Miles Michaelis, which is a really good test, throws a lot of strikes. Packy Naughton, that's a bullpen game. Angel Rondon for game 4, and then Wainwright in game 5. So they'll get to see a smattering of different styles of pitching. And so this would be a really good series for them to just try a bunch of young guys.
Yep, and hopefully Jason Hayward can just sit on the bench and just chill out and relax. 5 games in
Hopefully.
4 days. I mean, they've had 9. They're having a 9-game week. It's pretty brutal. They had a doubleheader on Monday as well. They
Dang.
got another one Saturday.
Yeah, it looks like so they're throwing out Matt Swarmer and Mark Leiter Jr. in the doubleheader as the probable starters. So I guess the Mark Leiter is a bullpen game.
Yeah, he usually doesn't last longer than 3-4 innings, anyways.
That's fair. So yeah, it'd be interesting. Because I don't mean to sit here and trash the team. I do because
You
Cardinal
can
fan.
trash them.
So
I'll trash them with you.
yeah, but there's definitely good stuff there. There's just also a lot of random crap that just feels like placeholders and filler.
Yeah,
And so it's like Jed's working with his hands tied.
and he probably is.
Yeah, exactly. And you can kind of tell it because he's made some really good moves that give you a positive outlook for the future. And then he's also not made moves where he needs to, and I think it's because his hands are tied monetarily.
And with Jed, I think the difference between him and Theo Epstein is that he's not as drastic about things. He's not going to make he's not going to swing some huge trade, and he's not going to try to fix everything, I think, in one offseason. So for him, I feel like he's more likely to go through with like a 2-year rebuild plan, which I hate.
Okay,
But
so I'm gonna give you 2 GMs, and I want you to tell me which one he's more like. Okay,
okay,
is he more like Theo, or is he more like Jerry Dipoto,
he's not like Jerry Dipoto at all.
or is he like Walt Jocketty?
Sure, yeah. I mean, he is like Theo. Obviously, they work together, but they have different
Yeah,
styles in a lot of
that's
ways.
fair.
He also is not scared to trade people, as he clearly showed last year.
Yeah, yeah. I still can't believe he traded all of them.
Right? And he's gonna keep going. He's gonna trade Willie. I'm gonna cry.
Yeah. Well, You'll have to come to my house for deadline week.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I think that's all we've got for today. You got anything else?
I don't think so. I hope the Cardinals kick the Cubs' ass during this 5-game series.
Very, very likely to happen. But should be fun. I'm actually going to the doubleheader on Saturday, so it should be fun.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah.
Is it a straight doubleheader? So you get to go to
No.
both?
I'm going to both, but it's not a straight doubleheader.
Okay, it's split.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
You'll have to send me lots of pictures. You'll have to. I'll log you into TikTok and you'll TikTok from the game.
All right, will do. Thank you for listening, and make sure you rate and subscribe. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, and Twitter at Getaway Day Pod. We'll be back with you next week. Talk to you then.